Okay, should be able to hear me. And I think we're live. Let's do our new solid color. We'll do a new regular layer. We'll get rid of that background. We don't need that. Get rid of that solid fill. Or rather the mask there. Make sure we're on brush mode. Okay. Just going to do some exploration tonight. Got a soft brush. I think I'm going to bring in a textural brush here in just a second. I want to lay down kind of something to respond to. Okay, so now we'll go up to the painterly brushes, and I think the brush that I want is one that I have not used in some time. So I'm looking at either this one, the show through, right? See that? Or I might use this crosscut one. Yeah, twist drag might work as well. No, that's not the one I want. Crosscut, I believe, is the one. And this is just going to leave this kind of open spot in the center. That's the idea with that one. I want to be careful that I'm not getting too horizontal with this. I'm kind of feeling this kind of dynamic dynamic composition is kind of what I'm going for here. So our blocking was, all kind of diagonals here. And then we kind of want some counter diagonals that are a little bit less pronounced, for them to balance out. This, I'm thinking up here, I might want to have this kind of fade to, no, I'm not really sure. I was thinking of just having this fade out, so it can be kind of a sky, but I'm not quite sure yet what sort of scene this is going to be. Is this going to be an outdoor, landscape? We're going to be down at the bottom of the ocean. Are we going to be inside the belly of a narwhal? Who knows? These are things too high for us to understand. I'm not liking any of that. I think this is too linear, so we're gonna start breaking that up. I want it to kind of like heave almost, if that makes sense, like it had this kind of linear thing going on, and then it was displaced. think in order to do that, we kind of need to show this transition, you know, from like down here. Well, actually, I don't like how those shapes are working there. Let's merge a lot of this together. Yeah. Let's do that. I think we're just going to make this all kind of dark down in there. Don't like what's going on here. Try to keep that dynamic. Hmm. 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 Yep, we are just looking, searching for these shapes and these relationships. Actually, I'm kind of seeing something here, but I want to stay. I don't want to say non-committal, but not too obvious, I think is what I mean. You know, there are shapes that I'm hoping to kind of tease out, but I want them to kind of do some unexpected things rather than, you know, just be really heavy-handed with it. Too much of that, too much control, you know, just let it go. See what happens. So that's what we're going to try here. I think I'm going to duplicate this and then go into my smudge tool. I'm duplicating it really only to save the progress. There's, you know, it's kind of pointless because I'm never going to come back to that. Like I know I won't. But, so we got sample all layers on here. And, I'm using a different smudge tonight. This one's got more texture to it. Does some funky things. Okay. Now the other one obviously makes it much more rigid. It still makes texture, but it's much more yeah, rigid. That's the right word. We hit it on the first try with our word choice there. This one, though, it gives us some more interesting kind of micro level texture, whereas the chunky smudge, which we may end up using, but that's more on a macro level. Big, chunky, square shapes. You know, that's kind of what that is good for. Okay, that I don't really care for. This shape, just way too linear, too horizontal, too uniform in thickness. You're giving me heartburn, shape. And I do not need heartburn right now. So, you would kindly knock that off. We could move on. All right. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but I have this brush set to sample all layers. So we're not just pulling that layer around, we're grabbing the background as well. And we'll see whether or not that is something we'll utilize. So we could, you know, we can swap out this background after the fact, right? Like, we're using it to pick up this color, and then if we swap out that background, then whatever we've smudged will stay, and then we'll get a little show through. So that's one way we can we could utilize that for some hue variation. It's a little bit unexpected, I won't say unplanned because we planned for it, but I don't really have a good way of knowing what the result's going to be. And so that will be hopefully a pleasant surprise, something we might be able to utilize. and potentially something that we can't. You shouldn't be afraid of these things. When the opportunity presents itself. There, we got Adonis in the chat. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, while you're here, I was thinking about taking some of these well, I won't really call it training, but I'll say tutoring discussions, taking them a bit more seriously. A couple of people have asked me about that, and you're definitely one that I think of in that capacity. You know, based on our previous conversations and kind of the things that you've been working on. And yeah, I thought, I don't know, maybe soon, maybe this is the time to take this and try to put some legs under it, give it a real concrete approach rather than just a eventually maybe been thinking about, right? And man, I wonder how many times I've said this on this stream, but I really am feeling like I think it's time. So what that might look like, I was talking with my wife a bit, and I I really don't think that I'm a make a lesson plan kind of person. I think I'm much more in the kind of tutoring response to where someone is at. And as far as I should clarify, as far as making a lesson plan, I don't mean that there can't be some directive of like, try this exercise or do this or that or the other thing. I mean more like a pre-packaged, if that were done ahead of time and you just have this course that you're kind of put through. And I'm not downplaying that. I think that's a whole different talent to be able to put something like that together. And I'm saying I don't think that's really me. I think what I like to do is understand the person, understand their goals and where they're at, and their current abilities, and then try to work with them from there. And I do have some ideas about what might be some good exercises, and that might be a kind of a default, when things don't present themselves so clearly as a solution or deficiency that needs to be addressed. Just having some disciplines and exercises that we come back to, I think would make sense. So anyway, I'm saying all this because I've had a few people ask me about it, and I've thought about it for a long time. I just never, I guess I just like conceptualized it in that educational course material curriculum framework. And when I step away from that and go, no, if it was just like a group that met and had a stated objective of learning and growing and doing certain exercises to work on that, seems pretty straightforward to me. It doesn't seem like that needs to be overcomplicated, overthought out, and you can kind of play it by ear. So anyway, something to think about. Yeah, I'm just catching up on the chat, thinking about our next meeting, but we could probably discuss more on Discord. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we should look over what you've been doing and see how that's been going. I really like those images you've been posting from the schoolism class you've been doing. Those are I can definitely see progress in like your conceptualization of the planes and how light can be used to communicate that. I think it's cool. It's cool to see. I mean, it's like these are kind of abstract concepts that are built through the more concrete exercises. So you may be doing portraits, but you're obviously, you're pulling things out that are more abstract and conceptual. And I don't mean that in the artsy fartsy sense of being all philosophical about it. I mean, sometimes you look at a portrait and what really interests you is like the way that light passes through some of the fleshy portions, like the ears or whatever, like, and that may sound weird, but like these are not really things that you it's not like the look in somebody's eye, the window to their soul or that sort of thing. And obviously there's truth to that, and there's a skill in capturing those aspects. But sometimes in the moment, what interests you is just something really simple. I often say this about like the candle or the magnet or whatever. It's like these things are so simple. I mean, I shouldn't say simple. They're just so small and mesmerizing, and to me, it's like it just works every time. A magnet is just fascinating. I think we keep thinking about its potential, and it just feels magical, right? And a lit candle, I think, is kind of the same way. It's not the nuclear power plant, but just that little flame is enough to captivate your attention and focus. And there's something about that. Maybe that should be my shtick. I should just paint candles for the rest of my life. Candles and magnets. Yeah, you guys know Candle Magnet Guy? Yeah. Yeah, that's all he does, right? I don't know. Okay. So I'm slowing down here, obviously, but I'm considering these edges, right, and these shapes, and how, a scratchy shape like this, that's all good and fine, and it shows its energy. However, I think where I see the shape is uniform in thickness, there's something about that like I feel like it would be more interesting if it changed in the stroke weight, you know. So it feels, I think there's just another level of that kind of energy. I want to say frenetic energy, but I don't even know if that's a real word. But anyway, you know when you have this scribbly line that goes back and forth, but to me there's something about, and this is just, okay, maybe this is just another like magnet candle discussion, but like there's something about a line that's nice and thin, and then at the end it kind of has this pool to it. It's almost like you know what's going on there. You can feel the speed of the stroke, and you can feel the stop, and where the ink bleeds off the, you know, the end of the nib. Even though that's not really happening in digital, there's something about that that gesture that, like, you know, there's and I'm exaggerating it here with this this brush, but, and I think that's kind of what makes this brush work for me. Partly too, I mean, it does kind of rip apart a little bit there on when you make a sharp turn, and so I kind of find that interesting. But it's this like thick and thin, and you can just feel the motion through the mark that it leaves. I don't want to talk up this brush, but like I'm just saying, it's that feeling, it's that gesture, and there's something about that to me that is just magical, worth pursuing. What makes it an interesting mark? And you know, I don't think you need to overthink it too much if it's working. Sometimes you want to know why. Well, why do I find that interesting, right? You know, it's a good question, but I think if you know that you do, well, you've got plenty to start from, right? Thinking about these shapes here, and like, what am I saying about them, with depending on how I take that stroke, you know, in terms of kind of the motion and stuff. Rocks in motion. What is this guy? What is he even talking about? What are we talking about? An avalanche right here? There's no avalanche. Man's lost his mind. I don't think I like doing these. I mean, I want to have some lines to follow, but I think that I need to have shapes be much more prominent than the lines themselves. I'm also thinking, what kinds of shapes. So I've got these kind of swirling, dynamic shapes here, and then I'm trying to break them up into something that looks kind of like a rock, right? And then I'm trying to give these kind of this in and out, like it kind of comes up and over this form and then disappears, like it's wrapping around something there. There's something to play with. And vary up those shapes. But I'm also thinking about how I'm going to introduce some negative shapes in here. And maybe I'm, I know I'm not quite to that stage yet. I suppose I could just jump into it and just do it, but I feel like what I'm doing right now has some interest to me, so I kind of want to keep doing that while it seems like it's at least not completely falling apart. That's the benchmark we go for. I was thinking about this week. When is a painting done? And it's kind of like it has to satisfy our desire to see all these different parts come together, right? It's value and composition and color, story, and all these different both visual and kind of conceptual elements in a balancing act, right? It's like when all of those things come together in a satisfying way, that's kind of when we say, yeah, this is done. Or it's when we throw our hands up and say, I give up, good enough. Or I can't look at this anymore. But I would generally say we might call those failed paintings and not finished paintings. So anyway, what makes it a finished painting? And, in considering that, I thought, it kind of means that it's going to be frustrating almost the whole way if that's what you want it to be every step of the way. If you're thinking, well, why isn't these shapes aren't working and these value relationships aren't working and these, I guess what I'm saying is it's the kind of whole kind of fix-it mentality that just launch into something and then repair it. Just keep fixing everything that looks broken until you've come up with something that you're happy with. And I guess what I'm saying about that is that if you want to master certain skills or feel like you're hitting the mark with every stroke and with every color decision, then you're going to be frustrated, or you're just going to have a continually finished painting, if that makes sense, right? Because when it all comes together, when all the parts are working together and it's satisfying, that's the target. That's what we're aiming for. And so if every step is like that, that's just kind of unrealistic. You're not going to be able to, especially without, building anything up, attain that at every point. So by nature, there's going to be some frustration, some level of, it doesn't have to manifest as frustration, but at least some level of dissatisfaction. I've got to fix this. I've got to repair. I've got to adjust, right? Just by virtue of what the exercise actually is. What is this guy talking about? Just shut up and paint, Eric. Nobody came for the lecture. I'm gonna go with that, like a mid. Actually, I might even go a little bit darker with that. Start to introduce that into here. This is starting to look a bit like a square. I don't like that. That's not what I signed up for. Those squares in here. So I think this will be kind of interesting as we have these, these lines that I'm playing with here. They're going to mess with scale as we go farther back into, or the perceived farther back into this scene. We can't have those continue at the same thickness and distance from each other. The pattern has to accommodate the distance. What is going on here? I think I need a different brush. Yeah. Let's do coarse hair. Because I think this allows me to go a little bit soft, but it's going to keep these kind of diagonal kind of marks, hash marks in there. Doobie doobie doo. So Adonis, if you're still there, How are you enjoying this class? You like that the class that you're taking on schoolism? Be interested to hear your thoughts on it. Looks like you're having fun to me, but sometimes things are more of a struggle than they appear to be. Who knows? Okay. What else do we want here? Break this shape up a little bit. Just looking at the chat. I love it. I only have 19 more days left. Nice. And is that are you doing that class with anybody? Like you have classmates, anyone to bounce their work off of besides social media? I didn't choose the critique option, so social media is pretty much the only way. Yeah, the critique option is too expensive, in my opinion. I mean, I think it would be worth it depending on where you are in your studies and in your career. But I can't say that it's been worth it. Well, I should take that back. I was going to say I can't say that it's been worth it to me, but I've also not done that, so I don't know. I did take a class with Marshall Vandriff, and that's not a schoolism thing. He's just kind of got his own thing going. And that was cool, you know. To have that kind of direct input, that was different than, watching a YouTube video or something like that. It's good to have. It's good to have a live, in the present human being on the other end. Did I meet any new artists in Marshall's class? No. I think there was some opportunity for that in the Discord. There was a Discord server. But I didn't do too much in the Discord server, mainly because this is a different conversation to have. But basically, when you're working with a class that many of the students are young and ambitious and just getting into this, seeing it for the first time, I always feel like I don't want to say detached from that. Like, I want to be helpful and a normal human being. I also want to, by normal human being, I mean just, it doesn't really matter what level you're at. People are people. But as far as the competition portion of it, where people show their work and then that pushes people to do something kind of in response to that. They want to be recognized in the group. I tend to shy away from that because I know that I could get carried away, with just like, I am a very competitive person. And so what I'm saying is, if I'm not at the same level, or rather, if I feel that I'm kind of at a higher level than the bulk of the group, then I just feel like for me to do that is just kind of, it's not helpful for anyone else. It's not helpful for me. And it's like not the relationship that I want to have with the other students. And so, were there other artists? Yeah, for sure. There were conversations going on and so forth. I kind of stepped back a little bit. Didn't want to be throwing my opinion in there, and that's, like I said, partly because I'm there to learn, and if I'm just throwing my opinion in, then that means I'm not really listening to what I may be missing, right? And then part of that is, for someone who's, let's say that I'm looking at a concept, a visual concept that I want to master, want to work more on, and I know about it. I've known about it for many years, and feel that I perhaps have a flawed understanding of it, or a inadequate practice with it, and so I'm looking to work on that. And then you compare that to someone who is hearing it for the first time and trying to grasp it. It's not in their best interest to have someone more experienced just demonstrate what they can do, if that makes sense. I'm trying to be careful because all of this sounds to me like just coming out of my mouth. I'm like, that sounds arrogant. But like, we're talking about a 15-year span of experience, and I feel like I've got things still got to learn. And one of those things that I feel like I've been considering more and more in the past few years is I don't want to say taking a back seat, but like just letting other people do their thing, without feeling like I could also do that, or could do it better, or could compete in the same sphere. Like, just let it be. Like, what's the, I think there's a value to being competitive in, having that nature. And then there's like there's a limit, where it, a limit where it becomes combative rather than mutually respecting and helpful and all that kind of stuff. And I think a 15-year gap is pretty clear limiting factor there. So anyway, that was a long thing to say. That's why I never really got into too much of the discussion. I would here and there, if I felt like I had something helpful to say or benign, just a conversation. But that, and I was pretty busy too. I had, man, it just sounds like I'm making excuses. I'm making excuses here. No, I was pretty antisocial. There we go. Just making excuses. All of these things are true. But it was a busy summer. I remember doing a lot of the assignments, like with my kids. The assignments were cool. We went, we did this like visual memory thing. So like you would go about your day, and then at some point in the day you had to like recall a moment from within the last 24 hours and record it visually, and it didn't have to be a good image. It just had to like be the thing that you remembered, right? And that was kind of interesting. And so I would do that. I'd like walk my kids, and we'd go for a walk, check things out, and a lot of what I did on that exercise was from those walks. Because there'd be memorable things. Like when they find something that they think is cool and they're proud of, or they climb up on a rock or something, and strike that explorer pose or whatever. Those are things that they're in your head. They're good to remember. I'm glad I drew them because I think I'll remember them better. And then as far as the exercise, I think the point was to exercise a visual kind of muscle, metaphorically speaking, but that part of your brain that analyzes things visually and can recall them. That's actually can be quite difficult sometimes to remember what exactly was that. I don't remember, or like, remember that was really cool, or like the way I've actually been messing with this with a project that I'm doing where I'm thinking about sand and trying to get this certain vibe about it that just isn't quite connecting. It's like I can look at reference. I'm like, no, that's not quite what I'm going for. And I'm starting to think that perhaps what I'm going for is not real, or certainly not the way that I'm conceptualizing it. I have some ideas about how I'll address that, but I don't really want to get into it because, well, without actually showing, it's kind of pointless. And if my theories of how I want to address the issue end up being wrong, I don't think I can live with the embarrassment. I've lived with plenty of embarrassment. Okay, I'm going to do a new layer. I kind of like what's going on, but, well, there's two things I want to do. So first, I'm going to pin this layer here. And I think I'm going to go over it with a soft brush and kind of change up some of the relationships here. So, we got all these like bright swiggles in here. What if we take those and we have some of them like shift over to dark, right? They start dark, they kind of shift over. Or they start light and shift over. Just kind of see what we can do. Push these things back and forth, right? So this is just a layer pinned to the existing layer. Clipping mask, that's the word, clipping mask. What all the cool kids say. I would say with that class that I took that it would be worth taking it again. It was good. And that's pretty rare to have something that's like, you know, it's one thing to like just learn something. Say, okay, I've transferred the knowledge of this concept. You know, it's another thing to, I think deeply about things and have a discipline or an exercise or something that is a little more deeply connected with you than just transfer of information. Man, what is this guy ever talking about? I don't think I could listen to myself this long. I talk way too long on here. It's monologuing. This is why I need to bring guests on more often so they can offer something else. I like this, but I think I want to change it up. Okay. Right. Let's go new layer. What I just did there was not good. We'll go new layer. We're gonna go to the smudge brush. I'm gonna hit the hard chunky smudge. We'll do sample all. Actually, before I jump into this, so this is, I'm thinking, well, you know, we'll start shaking things up a bit here. But I'm kind of wondering. See, that's all the show through behind there. So we'll do new fill. We'll just copy that one, and we'll start to adjust this and just see like how does it change our composition. So obviously there's value that'll change things. And on one hand, I like this being brighter back there. I don't like this being brighter down here. This is just kind of something that's interesting. Kind of shake up the composition a little bit. So I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to go ahead and go to my gradient tool. We'll select a lighter value here. We'll go into these purpley blues here. We'll just throw a gradient in there since that was one of the areas that I kind of liked what was going on. And I will probably change this color as well. But for now, we'll see what we get when we put it in here. Grab a darker color. No, okay. We want this darker in there. Okay, so let's adjust this hue saturation. Let's go with colorize so that we can ballpark where we need to be. Later. So that's just going straight to gray. It's interesting how, so this kind of purple tone is going to push that to feel kind of yellow when it goes back there. Don't think it's helping right here. So we're bringing a mask. We'll mask that out. Just kind of bring it in and out, kind of see where it's helping, where it's not. Okay, so now we got this. We can maybe adjust our hue. Like that, so we get this subtle hue shift in there. You know, if it, we could even just lower the opacity so that it's even more subtle. Okay, now we've got our layer for smudging. I'm going to grab one of the lighter values and one of the darker values. So I've just kind of got these on the ready if I need to, you know, throw them in. And then we're going to go to the Smudge Brush. And we're going to see what's what. Don't like that shape. Off to a good start. Like, that's kind of cool, but let's see if I can make it worse. All right. So this is an interesting step where I'm messing with the edges here, trying to get things to soften up, break apart, kind of get these different effects, trying to, blend one shape into another. But you can also really quickly destroy the texture that you've already got. You gotta kind of be careful with it. It's an interesting workflow because with this smudge brush, you have to work quickly to maintain any texture, because the quicker you work, the more jagged the edge will be. And then as you slow down, that's when things start to blend, right? So, anyway, that being said, the speed of the stroke is a part of the process and a part of the end result. It's something where you're just kind of not allowed to be very careful, which is good for me. Because careful is not something I've been accused of often. Okay, this is like almost working. I don't like how linear that is. I might actually come back in and paint that out rather than handle that with the smudge brush. But we'll see about all that. Here I'm going to work this edge until it feels like all of this is farther forward. Don't want to lose much of the texture that I have here. And I do want some portions to kind of get lost into each other, you know. Like this edge that we could lose right there. Soften that up. But then I don't want it to be I don't want it to get confused with this edge right here. Down here. This edge, that edge. What's this guy talking about? Try to get these shapes here to feel more interesting. Okay, I think all of this back here could lose that. It's got this really dark value here. I think a lot of this could just get muted. Even the texture. Just lower the contrast in general, I think. Be helpful there. Okay, this shape is just a big no right there. Don't like it. It's kind of been bothering me throughout the stream, but I have been too forgiving. Right. Hmm. I think this could probably use a bit of a lighter edge there, maybe. I like the idea of these shapes kind of emanating. It looks almost like it's splashing out of there. All right. This, like I was talking about earlier about the texture, the spacing of the lines and that sort of thing, kind of getting adjusted to fit the distance in the scene. That's kind of what I'm feeling right there. Like, I thought those were kind of interesting shapes, but they just felt like they were so kind of wide, I think is the right way to word that, so that they seemed more suited for the foreground than the background where they would be. Have to kind of tighten up, be closer to each other. What is this guy even talking about? This never makes any sense. We could have like a vote to mute monologue. You sly dog, you got me monologuing again. Okay, didn't like that. Not working for me. This kind of reminds me of this dream I had. That I was sent off to a prison mining planet. I'll let all the armchair psychologists kind of play with that one for a minute, but I was like underground the whole time. I was in this mine that was all just these crazy jagged rocks and stuff. But there was something human about the whole dream. It was like I was with people and like working out these different issues between the other inmates, you know. Like, hey, look, we gotta live here together. Let's at least kind of work out our differences so that we're not eating each other alive. All right, I'm going to do one more layer like this, and I'm just going to get a little bit more aggressive and just kind of see what happens if we just start grabbing some of these edges, moving them around, being a little less careful about it. Excuse me. Definitely get more of a jagged effect there. How about you guys? Share your mining planet prison colony dreams, if you've had any. Surely I'm not alone here. Nope. No, I like that. I like this thing. It's just gotta be right. You know, something's off here. I want the kind of fractal effect going on here. Maybe we need to pull this over. Give us more. Just a little more. That darker value. Okay. So I'm gonna hide this. Here's the first one we did. Kind of smudgy. Here's the second one where we just kind of went nuts. I think generally speaking, it's working. Let me change this right here. You know, we were just working on that, but something about that gives me grief. I mean, it still does. Some things never change, you know. I don't want to lose these edges here, right? Like, get this edge here. Just kind of blur these together as it meets up here, but then down here have them, you know, separate as these different values. I don't know. Is this all folly? What are we even doing? Don't like that. Oh, it's getting too smudgy there. Yeah, I don't know. See, I like the texture, but I don't care for the shape. And I'm going to smooth that out. A lot of that. It's too much. It's too much back there. It's got to be merged together. Less contrast. I want to have some indication of these crevices and shadow shapes and stuff, but it doesn't have to be that strong. Okay, I'm going to pull some of this over, try to get this a little more textural. I don't know if I like that texturalness. I don't want to just blend that together. All right, I think, what was I doing here? I was going to do something. Forgot. Well, we'll do this, we'll do an overlay layer with that, as is our custom. The custom of our people. Let's do an overlay and then a color balance. Oh, look at that. That is, oh boy, that's intense. Oh, because it's sampling all layers with smudge. Okay, let's probably not do anything with this, but it's kind of interesting. I like that transition there is really nice. I may have killed Photoshop. Come on, Photoshop. Hang in there, buddy. Good as time as any to get a drink. Okay, that was supposed to be a brush. It's not, as you can see. It is instead a smudge brush. So we'll give this about 15 to 20 minutes to catch up. We'll see what happens, huh? Okay, oh, okay, there's something. This actually could work, I think, if I lower the sample rate, the spacing. I might do it. Yeah, let's go. Let's once it catches up, we'll go to our brush here. Where's the, there we go. And we'll increase our spacing like really kind of just hitting a few spots here. See what we can do. Let me back up here. Just kind of have to just tap it. That's still doing a lot, though. I mean, it's like still going. Okay, this is just going to be way too boring to watch, so I'm not going to do this. We could either turn off sample all layers and then just start moving things around, or we can just actually use a brush here. So let's first switch to our actual smudge brush that we use. We'll turn off sample all layers, and we'll kind of see what we can do here. I like that transition there. It makes me happy. And I like being happy. We're going to use this. Incorporate it. Why not? It has been nothing but good to us. Let's turn that sample all layers back on and just see what kind of a mess we can make. I like this area right here because you got this light, so if we pull that, it's going to get brighter. If we push that dark in, oh man, yeah. So what is going to happen there? Whatever it is, it can't be good. Hmm. I do, I like that transition, that blue transition there. It's interesting. Yeah, that's getting a little too controlled there. I don't like it. Even here, I wonder if this is almost too much. Says the guy who's making a big mess of this. I don't know. There might be. I may have gone too far. Like 10 minutes ago. Alright, what are we mining on this planet? We're mining hopes and dreams. That's how you know it's a real evil empire you've been imprisoned by. Hmm. What am I doing? You ever think about that? You ever wonder, you just noodle away at something for like, oh, your brain shuts off and you just keep messing with something, and then you figure out, oh, yeah, I've just kind of gotten lost in this for a while. I guess there's nothing wrong with that, but I mean, I suppose there could be, but for an artist, that might be what do they call that? Flow, you know, that you get into. As long as you know, as long as the current doesn't take you somewhere crazy, you might be okay. I'm kind of used to, you know, having the foreground be darker, and I'm thinking maybe that might not be the way. Just kind of doing it out of habit, autopilot, you know. I might like that to be something else. You know? Go back to sample all layers. Turn that back off. Set to grab. some raw material to work with. That's quite the noise to make on a painting stream. Those might be a little too on the nose. Gonna kind of push those back, blend them together. I kind of like what's going on here, but I want to maybe milk a little bit more out of it. A little more contrast, a little more blend from one shape into the other. I don't know about all this in here. I think I'm gonna have to sort some of these things out. You don't get a free pass just because you throw a little saturation in there and contrast. Still gotta make sense of the thing. At least that's the story I'm going with today. All right. I think we can hide this layer and just kind of see like what really is it doing, you know? I mean, obviously a lot is going on here, but I think if we were to compare the kind of the perceived forms here and the perceived forms in the previous abstract version. We might like to get a little bit of a mix. Deciding when and where to blend what we've got to design some shapes. Okay, so we hide it. So on this one, this is kind of the area that we're looking at, and then this over here. That's kind of what I'm seeing. I like this flow here. I like this feature here that I think got lost in this version. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we can just say, we'll half these, you know, on the opacity and see if it still works. I think some of the stuff, you know, just the softness of that back there versus the hardness of it now is just completely different. Interesting. So one thing we could do here, I think we could go Control A, Control Shift C, and Control V. So now we've just got this all condensed onto one layer. And I'm going to take this and do luminosity. So we're going to keep all of our values from the original design, and we're just changing the saturate or the color with the overlay layer. So it's doing the overlay blend mode, which is doing all of this saturating and darkening and lightening and so forth. And then this is just bringing that luminosity back to its original intent. So then we can start to play with this and bring that back without changing any of the saturation and the color that we brought in. So I'm thinking somewhere back in this like 20 to 40%, somewhere in there is kind of where I'm liking what I'm seeing. I want to keep it dark enough that it maintains that nice rich saturation. I'm going to copy this layer, this overlay layer. We're going to set it to normal. I just want to see what this is actually doing. We'll put another solid behind it. Okay, so it is pretty much just straight up, you know, all that's getting mashed together as it's sampling itself, stamping, and then making the overlay effect on itself, and then stamping it again. So as it repeats, it gets more and more intense. And so if it's dark, it's going to go straight to black. If it's kind of in those midtones, you're going to get that really saturated color. And if it's in the lighter area, it's going to go straight to white. So anyway, that's interesting how that works. What do we want to do with this? Because this is kind of an interesting thing when you're playing with like just raw, you're just playing with the effect of things. Then this is just information now that you can manipulate. It's kind of interesting to see what we can get out of it. With other blend modes. We just kind of need to bring up those whites a bit, but it's probably too much. That's kind of cool. Like that would be a good. Excuse me. Let's put a mask on that and just kind of bring just a little bit of it through. I bet that would be pretty cool. Let's actually do that one. So we'll put that one there, and then we'll go back to what we're doing here. So normal would push light. It would give us a lot more of that light value. Let's push this up, and then bring this up as well. All right, where? Yeah, it's not having any effect because it's too dark. That's just giving us a little bit more light value. We could probably go down the color fill, and we could move it into one of these ranges that increases value. Lighter color, for example. All right, then we got this difference, and this will add a mask to. We'll invert that mask. So do Control I, use our eraser, and just start kind of bringing it in these different areas. Just to kind of add some texture. I'm gonna be a little bit selective about it, you know, where I do it and what direction the brush stroke is going when I apply it. I got these little gold flecks in there. Those are all the hopes and dreams that are being mined on this planet. You can see them sparkle in the shadows. Interesting metaphor. Kind of like the shape before. I don't know. Feels like we could do something with this shape if maybe we'll chop it up with a smudge brush and move it around. I think it's got to fit in with, you know, the rest of this scene. It's got to be integrated into the landscape. Landscape. Is that what we're calling this? Is this a landscape? I don't know. That's how I see it. Okay, now let's do an overlay like we originally thought we were gonna do. Remember that? Back in the day? We were gonna, like, you know, make some values darker, make some values lighter. I seem to remember that was the plan. Things got derailed. I want to separate these shapes here. This foreground. I have this be kind of a foreground element. That'd be a background element. Don't know that that's the right approach to do it as far as color. Because I have the background kind of receding into that blue. So that may be the wrong call there. I don't like how that worked out either. We'll get back to that. Okay, I know I want to darken this value down here, but I don't like the blue there. I like the blue being kind of indicating things going into the background. I think if I bring this, this green kind of works here, maybe more like a ochre. Then I can bring the value down and forward a little bit. But again, though, that play on those colors there, that kind of bright, well, not bright, saturated ochre here is playing off of the blues around it. So that's not to be ignored, the effect that that's having. We'll keep that brighter right there and then bring it darker as it heads towards this area back here. And then how do we want to address this? We just darken all that. Darken that shape. That might work. Darken this shape here. I kind of like that contrasting to that one there, so maybe we'll work around and down here. Nope. I like what that did. Leave that. Maybe darken this area. I think we need to maybe lighten up this area. Hmm. I think we need like a mid value. So if I do like maybe either do multiply or just darker color, that might be. Let's just go with multiply for now. And let's find something that we can block in. We'll feel like it's a, a shadow area. Let's see. This all needs to be brought into shadow here. And now rough up that edge a little bit there. Get some more of these shapes in there that imply more shadow going on. Maybe this goes into shadow here. And tucks underneath all that. No, I don't like that. Don't like that much at all. Well, I'm enjoying this, but I do think it is about time that we bring this to a close. So, I would think, I mean, I do think this is probably one I want to revisit. Give it a little more time and let it stew a little bit. I do like the immediacy of this, like how this kind of just playfully became something, accidentally became something. But I think if we're going to turn it into a real interesting image, we might need just some time for some of the relationships to make more sense, and then we can decide what we want to clarify, what we might want to turn into an actual like element, you know. Yeah, see, something like that was needless. Just trying to, we're just playing, but trying to figure out, okay, if you had this shape here, it's casting this shadow. You know, how do we design this to be more interesting? I think that was what we just did there was not so great. I think I want this smoother transition on these. I think, I don't know, it might be fun to just paint on top of this. You know, now we've laid in some, well, quite the mess of abstraction. And now we get to try to make some sense of it. You know, as I like take a step back and I think, okay, this could be like a little bit lower in value. It doesn't need to be quite that right, but it could be kind of just homogenized. Homogenized, there's that word again. You know, so that this is one shape. That kind of moves from here all the way over and we kind of peek out over here. You could even have little bits, you know, rising up here. If that's what you wanted on your mining planet. And okay, so I'm seeing that. I'm seeing this area right here could be kind of merged into a slightly darker, less saturated tone there. I like how these shift from warm to cool, so I kind of want to keep that going on there. This is kind of neat, but I'm not really sure. How that all works, you know, where these lines should merge and disappear and all that goodness. What else? What else? We, you know, pretty much completely lost what we were doing over here with having these kind of shapes there. Kind of depends whether or not that's important to us or not. We're okay with losing them. That was a separate layer, so we could bring some of that back. Potentially. And I kind of missed where it was here now, but there was one of these areas that I thought I could take this. Oh, it's right here. I could take this kind of fogginess here and have this be like casting a shadow so that it kind of changes color there. Then it comes out in front of it here, right? but still have that fog or cloud, however we want to term that, and have it fade into that other darker tone back there. Let's change the shape. In fact, let's try to work this out here. Okay. Maybe see if we can merge those into a similar shape. Like that Flight of the Conchord song. Paper dolls and people are a similar shape. Might be onto something there. No. Kind of like what that's doing, but I don't know. Again, with the trying to find surprises, subverting our expectations in a good way. You know, how do we bring out interesting relationships between things without really being like the master of it? We're just kind of exploring it, kind of letting it, kind of looking for it, seeing if we find something that's interesting. And then if it interests us, interests me as the artist, then then I know there's something there worth pursuing. Let's see here, like if I try to get too crafty with this, right? Like I'll make this look like water or something like that. Could kill it. Could absolutely kill it. May have just did. I wonder if all of this should just be like darker there. So if we just do like darker color, we pick a thing here. We just start pushing all that back. We go a little brighter than that. But try to keep it relatively smooth. Maybe lighten it up a little more so that our brights can catch some of that. Maybe go in the teal zone. We'll come back down a little bit here. Whoops. Hmm. Yeah, see now these relate to each other. We gotta work on that. Working out these relationships, man. Let's do a brush that's a little more textural, like this guy. And maybe we'll bring this down. I don't know. Kind of like it at its full effect. Yeah, I think we'll just leave it there for now. And then this one, I'm thinking maybe we do color rather than normal, or see if we can get something juicy out of that. Hard light, maybe. That way we're not getting a direct relationship with you got to think about how those would stack. So this was a hard light on top of a darker color, which is not that complicated. So basically the darker color is going to say if this result is darker than what's below it, it'll blend. If not, it won't blend. And then for the hard light, you're painting on top of that layer and adjusting it with a hard light layer, if that makes any sense. Let's see if we can sneak in a little gold up there. Gold. The thing is, though, they will relate to each other. So whatever I do in one area, that leads up. It connects these areas together. Plus, it's about equal size, which I don't really like. I should darken all of that down. I'm gonna put a mask on that, and I'm just going to do a gradient here. We'll just kind of throw one in here. You know, I think that was working before. Interesting. What if we do, just use the eraser and erase in a couple of spots here. All right, let's see. Let's see what we got. Huh. That's interesting. I think they all have merit. Let's go, curves will, no, that'll make it black. We need to push up the floor. And I think we'll just go there for now. And, gotta do our color balance. Curves, all that goodness. Before we wrap it up for the night. I like that green, but I also like that gray. Know what I mean? So perhaps we do a hue saturation on top of that, and we can select our greens. Let's make sure we got the right range here. Those are the greens we want. Bring them down. Saturation. It's interesting. It's like I'm kind of afraid to go all the way down to black on this, but don't like what's going on here in these shadows. Like I feel like those need to be pushed darker. Maybe it's the curves layer that's contributing. Don't think you can have it both ways. This one is what? Greens. It's funny. You think you're making a change, you do all this stuff, and you kind of end up in the same place. It's almost as if we have certain sensibilities, like things to be a certain way. Almost. Go darker color with this one. I want to get, I think, some like little bits of oranges and stuff on those edges. I think that would make it pop, which we totally could. We can just do Hue Saturation. This is kind of the, I guess, the quick and dirty way of doing this. Colorize, bring that up, the kind of orangey color that we want. Go a little bit, maybe a little darker, a little more red, a little less saturated. Something like that. Then we'll do darker color. Then we need to get rid of a lot of the range here. Well, maybe we'll just do normal. We'll set it in normal mode. And then we'll try to figure out where that threshold is, right on the border between our color and our black shapes. Yeah, right there-ish. It should be tighter, but I'm kind of scared to try to do it in while I'm live streaming because it has a propensity to crash. Okay, so just something like that, and now look, this has a much softer scene to it. That adds this contrast. It's a little bit hidden when we can mask out some more of it too, like in the background. We don't want it back there. We want that to just kind of be kind of soft. Mask it here a little bit so that it's not so strong on the edges of the canvas. But as we kind of come in a little closer to the center, it becomes more prominent. Ooh. Okay. I think just about losing my mind on this image. I would like to make sense of it, you know? I kind of want to just attack it with a smudge brush. Mess up all this area right in here, make it, well, do something with it. I would think flatten it out, but then I'm sure from there I'd want to like start working in something else. Well, we can do it. Let's do a new layer. Get our smudge brush, sample all. Just kind of change that shape. kind of interesting, you know. I think it's kind of a whole point about being willing to cut things loose when, you know, we first were working on this. I played quite a bit up in this top right corner to get some visual interest up there, which is funny because like that's another place for it. But if you get too attached to that, then you can't come back and change it later when you determine that that's really what needs to happen. I think that allows for a little bit of rest. There. Hopefully. I don't know. I think we need to stop. Stop here. Or do we? I don't know. I'm looking at this area here. That's kind of, I don't know, has potential. Okay. Okay. I think having a hard time stopping myself here, but it's time. It's time. We'll come back to this. Fresh eyes. We'll have a different take on things. Let's see. Yeah, see, that does quite a bit. Changes that layer. Is that any better? Go all the way back to... right there. For some reason that offended me. I don't know if that's any less offensive. I mean, it's softer. Yeah, it's not too different. I don't know. All right. Let's stop it here. We'll save this. This might be one that we do again sometime. There might be some elements right in there that I want to keep, but here or something. But anyway, let's call it there. All right, let me go full screen with this so you guys can see what we did. Zoom out. Might blur if I go 100%, but at least you can see as much of the whole image. Okay, well, that was fun. Just kind of abstract playing around. I could see like adding some ships in there and maybe some little astronauts walking around or something like that. That would be cool. But I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to call it here and get some sleep. So thank you for joining in tonight, checking it out. And we'll be back next week, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And these streams are always just whatever kind of occurs to me at the time to be interesting. That is all over the place. Sometimes that's character, sometimes a lot of times it's environments. But a lot of times it's kind of just playing with the process and just kind of noodling around until something emerges that's interesting. So if you're interested in that, come back next week at sometime around 9 o'clock Eastern. All right, have a good night.